G'day guys, here's another video for you. Now this one I'm not showing techniques on this one. This one is explaining the difference between the inks. Okay, so I did a great big deep dive and I figured out that I wanted to probably go with the Distress line from Ranger. Now that doesn't mean that I'm now not wanting to buy other inks. I am, but at this stage, this is what I've spent my money on. So I want to explain the difference. Now, Distress inks. I'm going to, actually, I'll explain Kaiser Craft first. So Kaiser Craft, I've got Kaiser ink. It is a water reactive ink. It's a nice, big, juicy ink pad. It is water reactive, so I will show you that this is my very expensive palette that I use. I tell you to use all the time. I don't use this one nearly as much as I do my Distress line because I don't know why. There's no real reason. I just haven't. So it is a water reactive ink, which simply means you can add water to it and you can use it as a watercolor. You can do splotches with it. You can do all those sort of things. This is just plain cardstock, FYI. I haven't put any gesso or anything on it, and it's not watercolor cardstock. So therefore, the color's going to just seep straight into it. But that's what you can do with the Kaiser Craft inks. I do have several of them, but to be honest, I never reach for them. And I don't know why, but I never do. Anyway, moving on. So that's the Kaiser Craft. So I did try those out. I tried out some of those, but then I realized that I wanted a larger color range. Now, I'm going to explain the difference between Distress Oxide and Distress Ink. First of all, you can notice that in the Distress Ink, there is two sizes. Distress Ink comes in the minis, which is a 1-inch cube. And it also comes in a 3-inch cube, right? Now, you get 5. If you want to try out the inks, this is what I did. I purchased all the minis. And that was to see if I was going to use the inks as much as I thought I would in my head. I did. Some of them you can only get in a 3-inch now. There's a couple that they haven't made for a while and they're not in the minis. I struggled to get those, so I bought those in the 3-inch. What's the difference and why would you get that over that? This one has 5 times the amount of ink to this one. So if you're a bang for buck sort of person, this one will cost you more to outlay, but you get 5 times the amount of ink to this one. So the other difference, so that's the difference. You cannot buy the Distress Oxides in a mini. Tim Holtz's explanation for this, and I got it directly from him from Creativation 1 year. He actually said the reason they don't have the Distress Oxide in a mini at this stage is because they simply can't get the formula to be stable enough in a mini variety and not dry out. Therefore, if they cannot produce a perfect product that is going to have longevity, that is going to be a quality product for you, Ranger don't touch it. So on that note, they have developed 2 amazing products here. Okay, they've developed a lot of them, but I have been pleasantly surprised and I love all of these products. What is the difference if you're starting out and you're thinking about going down the realm of investing in some inks? What's the difference? Right, so we are going to open this. I should have done this before, shouldn't I, so that we weren't fluffling. I have color swatched all of my inks and all of my oxides onto the cardstock that I use. That is the substrate that I prefer to use all the time, and therefore there's no point in me buying a special kind of cardstock that's, you know, glossy and whatever else, because it's going to give me an incorrect result. Okay, I'm not going to have a consistent result with it because it's going to look funny. It's not on the substrate that I'm using. Therefore, I'm not going to be happy with it. Therefore, I did all my tags myself. If I can find this pink, if I can get it to pop out. Okay, so they are the two. I could take these off, couldn't I? It would make it easier. I'm looking very clunky here, aren't I? Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so there's your broken china. And if I can get this to spin around. This is what I do when I'm working out if I want a colour. I've just got them on a hook. I think I bought those from Kaiser Craft years ago. That one is picked raspberry. Now I'm going to not look as clunky this time because I'm going to do it right from the beginning. Picked raspberry. That is the Distress Oxide. The difference with oxides is in the name. They oxidize, okay? So when you are using the colors, they oxidize if you add water to them. If you don't add water to them, all of these have had no water added to them, okay? Now you can see that this one is really bright compared to this one. The reason behind that is because these ones are a dye-based ink. Distress ink is dye-based, okay? Distress Oxide is dye and pigment ink base. So it's a combination. It's not a hybrid. It's a combination ink, and it stays suspended in the ink pad. So you could store it on its side and the ink is not going to fall down to the bottom of it. It is literally suspended in the ink pad. Now, of course, you test that in your own environment. You know, I'm in Queensland, Australia, so we have very hot summers. I store all of mine like this, flat in a shelf on top of each other like that. You can buy tins to store them in if that's something that you want to do, especially if you go away for crops and stuff like that. Now, the Distress, to give you an idea of the difference when you're blending them, this is where the inks and oxides come into their own, right? I'm going to just move these over this way so you can still see the colors and all that good juicy stuff. I find I reach for the oxides probably more than I do the inks nowadays because they are buttery, they are creamy, and they blend together in a way that is off the charts. This is a fully inked background. So that is just a white sheet of cardstock and I inked it. I just did the purples through to the pinks, to the orange, to the yellows. And that was with the Distress Oxides. I used these brushes. These are the brushes that I like to use when I'm doing ink blending. I have an O on it for oxide, and I have some that don't have an O on them. Ugh. These ones, they are for my inks. You can use an ink brush on an oxide, but you do not use an oxide brush on your ink. Why? Because you will contaminate your ink because it's not a hybrid. You've got Distress ink in your oxide, so that's fine. But you then can't use that one back in there because it will contaminate and it will ruin your ink pad. So FYI, don't do that. Now, I simply use this brush, and this layout is in a process video if you want to go and watch it. I do this a lot. I love ink blending. It is so much fun and it's relaxing, it's calming, and the end result is so soothing. I absolutely love it. So when you're wanting to get a really smooth transition like that, go with the oxides because they're buttery soft and they're opaque. So because of the pigment ink in the ink, it allows it to be opaque. It's not transparent. Now, that being said, Distress inks. These were done, this whole layout, I've done some texture paste in here, and I've used Distress inks on this one. So you can get a nice transparent, translucent result, and it looks amazing. It really does. It is so pretty. So when it comes to deciding which one you would prefer, you might be more leaning this way. You might think that's more you. I highly advise, get the minis, give them a try, see if it's what you like. Is that the result that you're going to like long term, or do you think that you're going to be more of an ink blender? You can also get, with all of these ink pads, they all come, you can buy separately a re-inker, so you can re-ink the ink pad. So you don't just use it and throw it out, you re-ink it, keep it juicy. And these are about $10, but I've re-inked with this. I've re-inked one of the ink pads. You get quite a few re-inks out of a tube, and you can use this as a mixed medium all on its own. So that will be coming up. No worries, guys. So thank you so much for watching. That is my quick explanation of what is different between Distress Oxide and Distress Ink. They are both water reactive. They're fantastic. I will do another video later on showing you a couple of different techniques. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back with you real soon with another video. Bye for now.